OpenAI's strategic move. Windsurf acquisition explained. OpenAI is reportedly acquiring Windsurf, an AI-powered coding assistant, for approximately $3 billion. Sanchit Gogia, chief analyst and CEO at Greyhound Research, said Windsurf's strength lies in its inference time context compression, low-latency design, and modular fine-tuning, all crucial for regulated industries. For OpenAI, the acquisition represents more than just adding a new product to its portfolio. For OpenAI, this move is not just about competing with GitHub Copilot. It's about building a developer-native experience that reduces dependency on Microsoft infrastructure and captures first-party usage telemetry, explained Gogia. This acquisition marks a new chapter in OpenAI's enterprise push. OpenAI's full-stack control via Windsurf resets competitive dynamics in the AI coding assistant race, Gogia continued. GitHub Copilot is deeply integrated into Microsoft's IDEs, while Anthropic leans toward abstract API usage with little IDE traction. Windsurf gives OpenAI the missing link, a developer-native interface that can be decoupled from ChatGPT, deployed flexibly, and fine-tuned at the source. Windsurf's value lies not just in model performance, but in its IDE-native, latency-minimizing experience, said Gogia. If OpenAI absorbs Windsurf into a ChatGPT-style monolith, it risks losing developer trust. Maintaining modularity, backward compatibility, and interface clarity will be key to long-term traction. As quoted in computerworld.com, in an article authored by Gyana Swain published on May 6, 2025. Beyond the media quote, our view in full. Pressed for time? You can focus solely on the Greyhound flashpoints that follow. Each one distills the full analysis into a sharp, executive-ready takeaway, combining our official standpoint, validated through Pulse data from ongoing CXO trackers, and grounded in field notes from real-world advisory engagements. OpenAI's $3 billion Windsurf acquisition redraws the map for enterprise AI coding assistants. Greyhound Flashpoint. OpenAI's $3 billion acquisition of Windsurf, formerly Codium, signals a pivotal shift in the AI assistant landscape, from model supremacy to ecosystem control. Per Greyhound CIO Pulse 2025, 68% of global 2,000 CIOs expressed dissatisfaction with current AI coding assistants, citing latency, hallucinations, and poor integration with enterprise DevSecOps pipelines. Windsurf's strength lies in its inference time context compression, low-latency design, and modular fine-tuning, all crucial for regulated industries. For OpenAI, this move is not just about competing with GitHub Copilot. It's about building a developer-native experience that reduces dependency on Microsoft infrastructure and captures first-party usage telemetry. This acquisition marks a new chapter in OpenAI's enterprise push. Greyhound standpoint. According to Greyhound Research, the Windsurf acquisition is less a product extension and more a structural insurance policy for OpenAI's future enterprise strategy. With GPT-4o and ChatGPT serving generalist roles, OpenAI lacked a developer-specific interface that offered explainability, fine-tuning, and deployment flexibility. Windsurf plugs that gap, offering an architecture that balances performance and transparency, two core demands of enterprise-grade AI coding assistants. This is a strategic hedge against the increasingly closed-loop nature of GitHub Copilot and a move to reclaim developer mindshare in verticals like defense tech, BFSI, and advanced manufacturing. Greyhound Pulse. For the Greyhound CIO Pulse 2025, only 32% of enterprises piloting AI coding tools have moved them into production environments. Top barriers include low model explainability, 58%, legacy system incompatibility, 42%, and weak DevSecOps integration, 51%. Windsurf's GPU-efficient architecture and IDE-agnostic design directly address these gaps. OpenAI is buying not just a tool, but a foundation for customizable, compliant, and performant enterprise developer environments. Greyhound Field Note. Per a recent Greyhound Field Note from a global major, GitHub Copilot was not chosen due to incompatibility with the company's proprietary simulation environment and concerns around data residency. Windsurf, offering local deployability and tighter inference control, outperformed on both counts. The CTO noted, "We didn't need another smart autocomplete. We needed an assistant we could actually integrate into our toolchain." This case illustrates why OpenAI sees Windsurf as a platform acquisition, not a feature buy. A new competitive stack, OpenAI versus GitHub Copilot and Anthropic. Greyhound Flashpoint. OpenAI's full-stack control via Windsurf resets competitive dynamics in the AI coding assistant race. GitHub Copilot is deeply integrated into Microsoft's IDEs, while Anthropic leans toward abstract API usage with little IDE traction. Windsurf gives OpenAI the missing link, a developer-native interface that can be decoupled from ChatGPT, deployed flexibly and fine-tuned at the source. According to the Greyhound Developer Pulse 2025, 49% of architects in regulated sectors prefer modular tools with hybrid deployment flexibility. This puts Windsurf in pole position as enterprise buyers demand explainability, provenance, and DevSecOps integration. Greyhound standpoint. According to Greyhound Research, OpenAI's Windsurf acquisition creates a full-stack alternative to GitHub Copilot by aligning model authorship with IDE distribution. But GitHub Copilot remains tied to Microsoft's ecosystem, and Anthropic continues to operate in an API-first mode with limited IDE traction. In contrast, OpenAI now owns the entire funnel, from model to interface, enabling tailored workflows, tighter data feedback loops, and improved monetization potential. This fundamentally changes the competitive calculus in the AI coding assistant space, especially in regions or sectors wary of hyperscaler lock-in. Greyhound Pulse. From the Greyhound Developer Pulse 2025, 49% of software architects in regulated industries expressed a shift in preference toward hybrid LLM deployments and modular AI tooling. Furthermore, 64% noted existing assistants fail to meet compliance thresholds due to generic training data and poor source traceability. Windsurf's inline explainability and modular retraining address these issues directly, posing a material threat to Copilot's dominance unless Microsoft evolves its model access and integration strategy. Greyhound Field Note. Notes from another Greyhound Field Note confirm that a retail chain paused Copilot's expansion after an internal audit tied to source traceability. Windsurf, already under evaluation, was preferred for its deterministic provenance and explainability dashboard. The company's lead architect summarized it best: auditability is the new usability. If we can't explain it, we can't ship it. Should enterprises reconsider GitHub Copilot after this deal? Greyhound Flashpoint. The acquisition of Windsurf by OpenAI signals to enterprises that AI assistants must now meet higher standards of sovereignty, observability, and integration. For the Greyhound CIO Pulse 2025, 53% of CIOs in the US and Europe are already reviewing AI assistant contracts, with 27% launching RFPs for fine-tuned, zero-retention, region-specific options. GitHub Copilot remains viable, but Windsurf introduces a benchmark for configurable on-premise deployments. Enterprises in regulated sectors should reassess, not replace, based on integration depth and risk posture. Greyhound standpoint. According to Greyhound Research, this acquisition should prompt all enterprises, especially those in IP-sensitive or regulated sectors, to reassess their AI assistant roadmaps. GitHub Copilot remains a viable choice for generalist developers, but those requiring custom domain integration, model transparency, or on-premise hosting should now include Windsurf in RFPs. OpenAI's future roadmap will likely include configurable, sovereign-ready developer assistance, offering a compelling alternative for firms previously boxed into cloud-only, black box offerings. Greyhound Pulse. From the Greyhound CIO Pulse 2025, 53% of CIOs across the US and Europe are reviewing current AI tool contracts, with 27% issuing new RFPs that emphasize fine-tuned models, zero-retention APIs, and data residency controls. OpenAI's Windsurf, especially if offered as an installable assistant or edge deployment, is well-positioned to win these enterprise segments. Greyhound Field Note. Per a recent Greyhound Field Note from a US enterprise, GitHub Copilot was questioned mid-deployment after legal teams flagged license ambiguity in code suggestions. The company pivoted to a bring-your-own-model architecture, where Windsurf and other fine-tunable assistants were tested. The IT director remarked, "Our compliance baseline outgrew the product. We needed more than speed. We needed certainty." Can OpenAI preserve Windsurf's developer DNA? Greyhound Flashpoint. Windsurf's value lies not just in model performance, but in its IDE-native, latency-minimizing experience. For the Greyhound Developer Pulse 2025, 61% of developers abandon AI assistants due to poor UX and integration breaks. If OpenAI absorbs Windsurf into a ChatGPT-style monolith, it risks losing developer trust. Maintaining modularity, backward compatibility, and interface clarity will be key to long-term traction. Greyhound standpoint. According to Greyhound Research, OpenAI's biggest challenge lies not in aligning model weights, but in preserving Windsurf's developer-centric ethos. Windsurf's success stems from its IDE-first, latency-minimizing, explainability-rich product design. If OpenAI homogenizes the experience in a ChatGPT's cloud-native interface, without preserving these differentiators, it risks product dilution. Strategic modularity will be essential, offering Windsurf as a standalone power tool while optionally linking it to ChatGPT's conversational layer. Greyhound Pulse. From the Greyhound Developer Pulse 2025, 61% of developers cite abandonment of AI tools due to disjointed UX and inconsistent error handling. Seamless integration across IDEs, issue trackers, and CI/CD environments is now non-negotiable. That OpenAI's ability to maintain Windsurf's zero-friction deployment model will determine whether this acquisition translates into real-world traction or stalls as a redundant portfolio piece. Greyhound Field Note. Per a Greyhound Field Note from an Indian SaaS firm undergoing LLM tool consolidation, 2 high-performing AI assistants were dropped due to UX conflicts and developer resistance. A team lead noted, "Our stack could take the model, but the devs couldn't take the friction." This illustrates why OpenAI must treat Windsurf as a product with its own identity, not just a plug-in to a broader platform. What this acquisition tells us about OpenAI's broader strategy. Greyhound Flashpoint. The Windsurf acquisition signals OpenAI's shift from foundation model distribution to domain-specific product ownership. In the Greyhound CTO Pulse 2025, 59% of CTOs confirm AI buying is no longer model-centric, but workflow integrated. This move validates OpenAI's ambition to control not just the intelligence layer, but the user interface, starting with developers and likely expanding to legal, creative, and finance verticals. Greyhound Standpoint. According to Greyhound Research, OpenAI is now clearly moving beyond foundation model evangelism toward verticalized, productist workflow ownership. The Windsurf acquisition is a tacit acknowledgement that model performance alone is not a moat. Contextual design, observability, and user trust are the new differentiators. With this deal, OpenAI seeks to own not just the intelligence, but the interface, much like how Adobe controls both Photoshop and the Creative Suite. Stack. This signals a long-term commitment to building end-user environments, not just back-end engines. Greyhound Pulse. In the Greyhound CTO Pulse 2025, 59% of CTOs report a transition in AI buying criteria, from model accuracy benchmarks to integration fidelity and developer ergonomics. OpenAI's bet on Windsurf is consistent with this trend. Rather than focusing solely on the next GPT upgrade, the company is laying groundwork for packaged, role-specific AI assistants, developer-first today, with possible expansion into legal, financial, and creative domains. Greyhound Field Note. Per a Greyhound Field Note from a telecom infrastructure engagement, GPT-4 adoption was delayed until OpenAI solutions could be embedded in a purpose-built compliance sandbox. The client CTO commented, "We love the model, but we couldn't use it until it showed up in the right wrapper." Windsurf gives OpenAI the ability to wrap models in real-world utility, particularly for code-driven organizations that demand more than just conversational agents. Analyst in focus. Sanchit Gogia. Sanchit Gogia, or SVG as he is popularly known, is a globally recognized technology analyst, innovation strategist, digital consultant, and board advisor. SVG is the chief analyst, founder and CEO of Greyhound Research, a global, award-winning technology research, advisory, consulting, and education firm. Greyhound Research works closely with global organizations, their CXOs, and the board of directors on technology and digital transformation decisions. SVG is also the founder and CEO of the House of Greyhound, an eclectic venture focusing on interdisciplinary innovation. Copyright policy. All content contained on the Greyhound Research website is protected by copyright law and may not be reproduced, distributed, transmitted, displayed, published, or broadcast without the prior written permission of Greyhound Research or, in the case of third-party materials, the prior written consent of the copyright owner of that content. You may not alter, delete, obscure, or conceal any trademark, copyright, or other notice appearing in any Greyhound Research content. We request our readers not to copy Greyhound Research content and not republish or redistribute them, in whole or partially, via emails or republishing them in any media, including websites, newsletters, or intranets. We understand that you may want to share this content with others, so we've added tools under each content piece that allow you to share the content. If you have any questions, please get in touch with our community relations team at connect@thoffer.com.